All right, so we're starting part 2 now. Part 1, when I put my finger, or I'll go ahead and run this again, compile, download. When I put my finger over the light sensor, my flashlight comes on, or put any kind of dark object over the light sensor. When I try to hide it from the light, my flashlight turns on. When I uncover my light sensor and it can detect light, the flashlight goes off. Okay, I should be able to like turn the lights off and make the flashlight come on that way as well. So anyway, so it's detecting whether it's dark or not, and the flashlight comes on. So that's what our part 1 program did. But now, part 2, we want a light switch. Okay, we want a light switch. We want to control when this program works, because right now this just works whenever it's dark. Well, let's say I only want it to work when a certain switch is being pressed. So it says right here in our task, program the cortex so that when the limit switch is pressed, the flashlight responds to light. So that means that this limit switch right here, a little metal bar right there. So when that switch is pressed, the flashlight should turn on when it's dark and off when it's bright. However, when the limit switch is not pressed, the flashlight's always going to be off, meaning the program we did in part 1 is only going to run when the limit switch is pressed. So only while the limit switch is pressed. It gives us an outline for how to do this. Okay. So the first one is our indefinite while loop. We call that one our while 1 double equals 1. That makes the program loop. Okay, I'll put indefinitely. Okay, it loops for as long as until I stop the program. But now we need another while loop. So I'm going to come right here and say while. I'm just going to put parentheses there. And then everything after this, I want to fall underneath that while loop. So I'm going to hit a curly bracket there, come down to the end, and a curly bracket there. So now everything else here is inside of my second while loop. This while loop is going to be how I tell it the limit switch is pressed, meaning it's only going to run what's inside of that while loop while my limit switch is pressed. All right, and to do that, we need to come over here to sensors, variables, sensor value. We can click and just drag that right there into the while. If you didn't want to do that, you could just start typing it out. Sensor value, there you go. Figured it out, did that. The problem with doing that is it doesn't automatically do the brackets for me. So I like to just drag it over. I don't have to worry about typing it in wrong. Just click it, drag it over there. All right. And then right there, inside of those brackets right there, I need to tell it what I'm doing. So I'm using a sensor. The limit switch is a sensor. It senses touch. And so I need to say the limit switch right there, double click. I'm going to put double equals 1. And so when the sensor value limit switch equals 1. All right. And so the limit switch here equals 1 when it's pressed, and it equals 0 when it's not being pressed. So there we go. So that's what tells it to do that. So while, make sure I close parentheses there. All right. So again, we have our while loop at the top, making it go forever. Inside of that, we have this while loop that says, all right, if the limit switch is pressed, run this part. Meaning if the limit switch is not being pressed, it's just going to keep skipping this entire portion, okay, and just keep waiting for me to press the limit switch. All right, so there we go. Everything else I'm going to leave exactly the same because it says right here, if. Well, there's my if, and then my else. My if and else are not going to change. Only thing I need to do here is say, let's title this part right here. We're saying respond to, it says respond to light sensor. So run this when, oh, sorry, I'm on the wrong spot. This part right here. Run this when limit switch is pressed. Awesome. All right, so let's come up here to robot, compile, download robot. Just giving me a little yellow X warning. Doesn't like something that I did, value potentiometer. All right, anyway, we're gonna hit start. As long as it's not a red, it should run. We'll see if it works. Okay, so hopefully over here in my picture, I know my picture's small, you should still see it. If I put my hand over my light sensor, uh-oh, my lights comes on. That's not supposed to happen. All right, so it's ignoring. That's weird. My light sensor is just running all the time. Okay, let's hit stop. Let's see what happened there. Limit switch, everything else here was fine. Let's try that outside there. I don't think that should work, but we'll try that. Compile, download. Ooh, it took away my yellow X. Maybe that was the problem. Robot, compile, download program. Okay. And I'll hit start. So if I cover up the light sensor, oh, there we go. Flashlight's not turning on. That's good. Now if I press the limit switch, oh, there we go. Cover up, so it's kind of hard to show this. When I have a limit switch pressed, have it pressed down now. When I put that there, it comes on, and then if I come down here to the bottom, sensors, you should be able to see elsewhere. So see how it says my limit switch? I'm putting my hand over the light sensor. So you see the light sensor value up here take off, but my flashlight's not coming on. But if I click my limit switch, you see that touch value go to 1. Now, if I cover up my light sensor, my flashlight responds. And there you go. That's what it's supposed to do. All right. So there was my problem right there. I needed the limit switch into brackets. The equals 1 outside the brackets. Awesome. All right. So I'm going to tell it to stop running my program. See all that. Yeah. Perfect. Okay. So it says copy and paste your code with pseudocode. So copy all that, paste that there. Part 3, blinking LED with switch. All right. So here we have a program that we can just copy and paste. So copy, come right here. This is all still under task main. Make sure you get all those things like that. Perfect. All right. And so copied it. It says compile, download, run the program, observe this behavior. What happens? All right. Now, hopefully you can see it on the camera. My LED is right there. I'll turn this a little bit. There we go. Should be able to see it. All right. So I'm going to say, all right, file, robot, compile, download. Okay. You see the yellow X, it says substituting similar value. It went away. Basically, it just had an issue with whether it was capitalized or not. Okay. Before we run this, let's look and see what we think is going to happen. It says clear timer, and there are timers built into this. And so we're telling it to clear timer T1. It says while time 1, which is T1, is less than, and it says 20,000. And then right here it says loop for 20 seconds. Turn on green 2, wait 2 seconds, and then turn off, wait 2 seconds. All right. And so we're going to keep running this until this right here is no longer true. So the question is, why does it say 20,000? And right here it says loop for 20 seconds. Well, that's because these timers are run in, I believe it's milliseconds, whatever that thousandth is. So you have to move the decimal place to the right. So if I wanted 20, I'd move the decimal place to the right 3 spaces and making it 20,000, okay? Because it's 20,000 milliseconds. All right, there we go. So we're gonna hit start, and then there's my green LED. It's off, on, off, on. All right, and then it stopped. Okay, now if we time that, let's see here. If I counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. All right, there we go. Ran for 20 seconds. I don't know how, apparently that was kind of a little slow, but it ran that for 20 seconds and then stopped. Okay, so we can tell it, we've looped our program while something's going on. This is telling us that we can loop it for a certain amount of time and then tell our program to stop. Hit X there. So download compile observed behavior. What happened? Well, our LED blinked on for 2 seconds, off for 2 seconds, and it kept doing that over and over again for 20 seconds until the program stopped. All right, so it says modify the program to perform the following task. When the bump switch is pressed, the LED flashes. When the bump switch is not pressed, the LED is off. Copy and paste your code with pseudocode below. All right, so I will do this. This will be my last example, but try to do this before I show you. So this is using pretty much exactly what we did on our previous code. So see if you can write this code and get it to work before I do. So pause the video, try it on your own, and then I'll go through and do it. All right, so first I need to get rid of all of this because we're not actually running a timer. All right, it's just saying while the bump switch is pressed, the LED flashes. When the bump switch is not pressed, the LED doesn't flash. Actually, I'm going to leave that part right there. So get rid of that. Get rid of that right now. All right, so the first thing I'm going to put is a while loop. While 1 double equals 1. Curly bracket. And then I'm going to put a second while loop. I'm going to put in the while loop as far as the bump switch being pressed. So while, okay, now ran into some issues with this one. So let's remember how this works. We don't make the same mistakes. Sensors, sensor value. Okay. And then here I'm not using limit switch. I'm using the bump switch. And then outside of that, equals 1, close parentheses, and then another curly bracket. And I need to make sure I'm matching all those curly brackets on this side as well. All right, so let's look through this. We have a while loop that says just run forever. So repeat forever. Run only when bump switch, bump, can't spell, sorry, bump switch is pressed. All right. And then we'll just say LED on for 2 seconds. LED off for 2 seconds. All right, I think that's good. Let's compile, download, and see if it works. All right, as we're waiting for that compile and download, programming is very much like a puzzle. You try things, hope they work, and if it doesn't, You try something else. There we go. We got stop. My LED is off. I'm going to press down my bump switch. Pressing down my bump switch. Pressing down my bump switch. Oh, and nothing's happening, but I think my bump switch is broken. All right, so down here, digital 2, you see versus bump switch touch, I'm getting 0. I'm pressing my bump switch and I'm still getting a value of 0. Let me stop that for a second. Let me make sure that I'm actually plugged into the right spot. That says digital 2 is my bump switch. Plugged into digital 2. It is. All right, so my bump switch might just be bad. So I'm going to change this to limit switch. So if your bump switch is working, that should have worked. Assuming this does. So let's do this. X out of there. So I'm going to change mine to my limit switch because my bump switch isn't working. Robot, compile, download. Start. All right, I'm holding my limit switch. And there you go. My LED is blinking while I'm holding down my limit switch. I'm going to let it do about 2 more times. 1, and then I'm going to let go. Do 1 more time. All right, I'm letting go of my limit switch. And my LED is not coming back on. Good. I press the LED, my limit switch again. My LED should start blinking again. And there it is. Beautiful. Stop. All right, so that worked. So again, if you did this with your bump switch, and hopefully your bump switch actually works, and you had bump switch there, that should still work. I could, my program never told me how fast to make my LEDs blink, so I could just go 1 and then 1. Just do it this 0.5, 0.5. I wonder if that'll work. File, robot, compile, download robot. Let's just see if that would work. Make it blink faster. Start. So no LED right here. Press my button. And there you go. A little faster blinking LED. Very cool. Awesome. All right. So there you go. That worked. Get rid of that. And let's come right here. All right. So it says copy and paste with pseudocode there. And then part 4, this is your last part. It says pick one of the following tasks. So 4 tasks here. Pick one of them, do it on your own, and then copy and paste with pseudocode below. All right. So the first one is make a motor spin as long as the bump switch is being pressed down, and its direction depends on whether the person is, 20 centimeters from the ultrasonic sensor. The ultrasonic sensor is this thing right here. There you go. So this sensor right here measures distance. So for instance, we should have used that one already, but here, if I go compile download program real quick, just to show how all these work, if we haven't seen those yet. Make sure mine works. Some of them work better than others. Oh, there you go. This one works good. So mine is set to inches. Okay. So if you want to do this as inches instead of centimeters, that's fine. Let's see here. Yeah. So I would do it to about 6 inches or so. What was that? Oh, nothing died on me. Okay. Anyway, but yeah, there you go. So there's that one. The servo position itself to the left or right, depending on whether the line follower is covered by your hand. The line follower is this one right here. Okay. You have to look to see what kind of values it's getting with and without being covered. In part number C, servo position itself left or right. Depending on whether the line follow is covered by your hand, this behavior will only apply if the button's being pressed. If the button's released, the servo is in the middle position. Okay, a little more complex, so if you're feeling a little braver. And then part D, make one motor spin whenever a button's pressed, and a second motor spin whenever a limit switch is pressed. And they repeat indefinitely, and the two things are independent, meaning if I can control one motor with the bump switch, the other motor with the limit switch, and whatever I do with one shouldn't affect the other. All right, so there you go. Pick one of those four, say, do your code, make it work, and copy and paste below.